Paradukka Sukha Karo Ashesha Kamana Hrudi Majhe Mora Krudidamba Parayana Ashesha Kamana Hrudi Majhe Mora Krudidamba Parayana Madamatta Sada Vishaye Mohita Himsagarva Vibhushana Himsagarva Vibhushana Amara Jivana Sadapape Rata Nahiko Punhera Lesha Nidralasya Hata Sukarye Virata Akarya Udyogi Ami Akarya Udyogi Ami Pratishta Lagiya Satya Acharana Lobha Hata Sadakami Lobha Satakami Sadakami Eheno Durjana Sajjana Varjita Aparadhi Nirantara Eheno Durjana Sajjana Varjita Aparadhi Nirantara Subhakarya Sunya Sadanatta Bhana Nana Dukhe Jara Jara Nana Dukhe Jara Jara Bardha ke kona upaya vihina tatdina kinchana Bardha ke kona upaya vihina tatdina kinchana Bhakati Vinoda Prabhuracharani Bhakati Vinoda Prabhuracharani Kore Dukkha Nivedana Bhakati Vinoda Prabhuracharani Kore Dukkha Nivedana Amare Jivana Sadapape Rata Nahiko Punhera Lesha Amara Jivana Sadapape Rata Nahiko Punhera Lesha Pare Budvega Dhiyachi Je Koto Dhiyachi Jivera Klesha. This song is written in utter humility by Bhaktivinoda Thakura, saying that he himself is the most fallen. I was just trying to understand the mood of a Vaishnava when I was reading this meaning. I am an impious sinner and have caused others great anxiety and trouble. I have never hesitated to perform sinful act for my own enjoyment, devoid of all compassion, concerned only with my own selfish interest. I am remorseful seeing others happy. I am a perpetual liar, and the misery of others is a source of great pleasure for me. The material desires within the core of my heart are unlimited. I am wrathful, devoted to false pride and arrogance, intoxicated by vanity and bewildered by worldly affairs. Envy and egotism are the ornaments I wear. Ruined by laziness and sleep, I resisted all pious deeds. Yet I am very active, enthusiastic to perform wicked acts. For worldly fame and reputation, I engage in the practice of deceitfulness. Thus, I am destroyed by my own greed and am always lustful. A vile, wicked man such as this, rejected by godly people, is a constant offender. I am such a person, devoid of all good work, forever inclined towards evil, worn out and wasted by various miseries. Now, in this old age, deprived of all means of success, humbled and poor, Bhakti Vinoda submits his tale of grief at the feet of the Supreme Lord. It's very, very unimaginable seeing the utter humility of a Vaishnava. Hare Krishna. Another small song. Dana Mora Nityananda Patimora Gaura Chandra Pranamora Yugala Kishora Danamora Nityananda Patimora Gaura Chandra Pranamora Yugala Kishora Advaita Acharya Bhala Gadadara Mura Kula Narahari Vilasai Mora Advaita Acharya Bhala Gadadara Mura Kula Narahari Vilasai Mora Danamora Nityananda Patimora Gaura Chandra Pranamora Yugada Kishora Vaishnavera Pada Dhuli Tahemora Snana Keli Tarpana Mora Vaishnave Nama Vaishnavera Pada Dhuli Tahemora Snana Keli Tarpana Mora Vaishnave Nama Vichara Kuriya Muni Bhaktirasa Swadhane Madhyastha Sri Bhagavata Purana Vichara Kuriya Muni Bhaktirasa Swadhane Madhyastha Sri Bhagavata Purana Vaishnavera Buchishta Tahemora Mona Nishta Vaishnavera Namite Bullasa Vaishnavera Buchishta Tahemora Mona Nishta Vaishnavera Namite Bullasa Vrindavani Chautara Tahemora Mona Gera Kohe Dina Narottama Dasa Danamora Nityananda Patimora Gaura Chandra Pranamora Yugala Kishora Danamora Nityananda Patimora Gaura Chandra Pranamora Yugala Kishora Advaita Acharya Bala Gadadara Mura Kula Narahari Vilasai Mora. Lord Nityananda is my wealth. Lord Gaurachandra is my master. The youthful divine couple is my life. Advaita Acharya is my strength. Gadadhara is my family. Narahari Sarkara is my glory. The dust of the devotee's lotus feet is my bathing water. The chanting of the devotee names is my satisfaction. Considering the merits of all Vedic literature in the light of devotional service, I have conducted that the Srimad Bhagavatam is the best of all scriptures. My mind is firmly convinced in the spiritual benefit obtained by eating the remnants of the foodstuff left by the devotees. The names of the devotees are my happiness. The land of Vrindavana is the enclosure within which I keep my mind. Poor-hearted Narottama Dasa speaks in this way. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you, Prabhuji. I have finished my today's Kirtan Seva. Hare Krishna. Thank you for the opportunity.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Beautiful, beautiful, really. I was really touched by that prayers by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. See, utter humility. Hare Krishna, everyone. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome back. So let us offer our prayers to seek mercy and blessings from our Guru Parampara. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadavaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute, Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi, Radhe Vrindavaneshwari, Vrishabhanu Sute Devi, Pranamami Hari Priye, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhyevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavyo Namo Namah, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Shri Prabhupada. नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम पदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौर तिशे नमः. O most beneficent incarnation, you are Krishna himself, appearing as Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You have assumed the golden complexion of Srimati Radharani, and you are widely distributing pure love of Krishna. We offer respectful obeisances unto you. Krishna Varnam Trisha Krishnam Sanga Pangasta Parshadam Yagnai Sankirtana Prayir Yajanti Su Medasa. In the age of Kali, intelligent persons perform congregational chanting to worship the incarnation of Godhead, who constantly sings the names of Krishna. Although his complexion is not blackish, he is Krishna himself. He is accompanied by his associates, servants, weapons, and confidential companions. Nana Sastra Vicharnaik Nipunau Shadadharma Samstapakau लोकानां हितकारिणौ त्रिभुवने मान्यौ शरण्याकरौ राधा कृष्ण पदारविन्द भजना आनन्देन मत्तालिकौ वन्दे रूप सनातन रघुयुगौ श्रीजीव गोपालकौ. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis of Vrindavan, namely Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizing and studying all the revealed scriptures for the benefit of all human beings. Thus, they are thus they are honored all over the three worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Narom Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Shila Prabhupada. Jai Shila Govindam Adi Purusham Tamam Bhajami. Hare Krishna again. Please accept my humble obeisances. All good to Shila Prabhupada. Welcome back. So we have been hearing from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Madhurya Kadambini. So now we are approaching the final eighth shower of nectar, and that we will do. So now towards the very end of that, the eighth shower is Prema Bhakti. So we will do. We will do in three lessons: 22, 23, and 24. 22 we'll do today, 23 and 24 we'll do next week. But before I begin 22, the Bhava Bhakti we did in lessons 19 and 20. So let us hear recapping of lesson 21 that we did yesterday. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. We are on the 9 steps of bhakti. Ado Shraddha Tatha Sadhu Sangha Bhajan Kriya Anartha Nivruti Nishtha Ruchi Asakti Bhava and Prema. Prema will be starting today, and Bhava in 2 stages it has been finished. The second stage and the second part of Bhava Bhakti, it was covered yesterday. Now in this we saw 4 things basically, that Bhava that arises through Raga Bhakti and Bhava that arises through Vaidhi Bhakti, if they are the same or different, and in which we have seen that Bhava which arises from Raga Bhakti is far, far superior than Bhava that arises through Vaidhi Bhakti. And we saw the categories of Bhava, the transformation of Bhava into Sthai Bhava and Rasa, and how Lord Krishna is the foundation of all rasas. We learnt about this. The first thing about Bhava that arises through Raga Bhakti and Bhava that arises through Vaidhi Bhakti. This has to be understood properly. Now first we'll talk about Bhava from Vaidhi Bhakti. What is Vaidhi Bhakti? That means impelled by scriptures under the guidance of Guru. That time in this the devotee feels that if he does not follow them, then that will cause harm to him. That means he has to follow the Shastras, he has to follow the Guru Maharaj and the previous Acharyas. That's how he does. Any feeling of mamatva or possessiveness, that is not there in this case. Now the Bhava is not condensed because it has a proclivity for devotion born out of fear of transgressing the scriptural injunctions, and a love that is mixed with knowledge of the Supreme Lord's divine majesty, that is Aishwarya. Now, what about the Raga Bhakti? Now, Raga Bhakti is far superior to the Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, rather Vaidhi Bhakti. So both are Sadhana Bhakti only. And the devotee's affection for the Supreme Lord is devoid of the feelings of Aishwarya, that is awe and reverence. And this love comes from the heart of the devotee, and it comes spontaneously. And the heart is filled with greed or lowlium, and the heartfelt aspiration of the devotee on the path of Raga Bhakti, Raganuga Bhakti, is free from any personal desire, like the great devotees. Then the categories of Bhava, this we saw, there are 5 of them: Santa, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya and Madhurya. In very brief, Santa means Nishtha only in the nature or the intrinsic nature of the Swarupa of the Bhagavan. And Dasya means regarding the Supreme Lord Krishna, who has got all the opulences as their Dasa, that is the servant, and serving the Supreme Lord. And the third is Sakhya. In Sakhya, the devotee is devoid of the mood of awe and reverence, and at that stage, he feels he is equal to the Lord also. He does not see any difference. But please remember all these things like Dasya, it contains Santa also. Sakhya, it contains Dasya and Santa. That means each stage contains the things we have discussed in the previous. Then the fourth is Vatsalya, or the mood of parental affection. This is, in this, the devotee regards the Supreme Lord as his or her child and maintains a feeling of extreme possessiveness. He or she disciplines the Supreme Lord, who is full with all the opulences and who is all powerful, but still the Lord accepts that. Then the finally Madhurya Rasa, Madhurya Bhava, or the mood of amorous love, not only the devotee possesses all the four qualities which we have said, and that is Santa, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, but they also serve Krishna with their bodily limbs. They are known as Krishna's beloved sweethearts of the Kantas. But here you have to remember one thing, you should not think that Madhurya is the highest, that is all right. But it is not correct to assume that one can reach the Supreme Lord by Madhurya only. One can reach with Dasya also, Sakya also, Vatsalya also. Santa, actually, that is a very, very preliminary stage. And if you see in Chaitanya Charitamrita, very little is given, described about that in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And then after learning these things, and then several questions were discussed. If there is a gradation to relish the rasas, starting with Santa Rasa and culminating with Madhurya Rasa, then would not everyone be inclined toward the most excellent, that is the Madhurya Rasa? We see that everyone has an inclination for the topmost object. If one is given a choice, then one chooses the topmost quality. Now, the answer is, although the nectarian taste of rasa is relished more in Dasyarati than Santarati, more in Sakyarati than in Dasyarati, like this, and finally more in Madhuryarati than in Vatsalya and others, still the devotees develop a relish for one rati only, according to one's previous impressions or previous aspirations. Our life is a continuous process and we cannot change it straight away. And we are carrying on the legacy of our past lives. That means one, unless one is like Lord Shiva, who has got all the ratis, normal the jivas, they will have one rati only. And then the next is who will discern the superiority or inferiority of the different types of rati which we have discussed. Those who have no aspiration at all, or those who are aspiring for just one rasa, they are unable to ascertain which is superior. Now, one who is experiencing, say, Vatsalya rasa, he does not know about the other rasas because he is not experiencing them. That has to be understood. And although a person may not have tested the other rasas, but still he understands the features of another rasa by comparing or distinguishing the characteristics of his own. Then we spoke of alambana, uddipana, vibhava, anubhava, ashtasattvika vikaras and all that. And in our previous classes, previous courses, we have gone in very, very great detail. Then the next thing we spoke about bhava, which is like a king, and it keeps under control the compatible emotions, various emotions such as laughter and anger and like this. Now, here what is to be understood that when the devotee is situated at the stage of Krishna Rati, he practices the limbs of devotional service such as Sravanam Kirtanam, like this, and this Thai Bhava in his heart, it mixes with the Vibhava, Sattvika Bhava, Sanchari Bhava. Sanchari Bhava is also known as Vyabhichari Bhava, which are fleeting, and the resulting relish he experiences in his heart is known as Bhakti Rasa. It is that great or that high. Thus, the Krishna Rati, which is known as Sai Bhava, becomes Bhakti Rasa. Now, in gradual maturation of this Rati, it requires different names such as Prema, Sneha, Mana, Pranaya, Raga, Anuraga, Bhava, Mahabhava, like this. And this Bhava and the other Bhava, which we spoke earlier and which we have discussed, they are different, that has been told. Now, when one engages in sadhana bhakti, then the attachment to Sri Krishna or Rati awakens in him, And when Rati condenses, it is called Prema. And when Prema swells in different stages, it takes the name of Sneha, Mana, Pranaya, Raga, Anuraga, Bhava, Mahabhava, like this. Now, this gradual development of Prema may be compared to different stages of sugar. This was also discussed in detail. Then those who by the influence of this Bhakti Rasa have all their inauspiciousness completely washed away, and whose hearts have been totally filled with delight, that is eligible for Suddha Sattva, and they are fully enriched with knowledge, who are always attached to the Supreme Lord, and who feel perpetual delight in associating with the Rasika Bhaktas, who treasure the happiness of rendering devotional service at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, Lord Krishna, who always remain absorbed in confidential sadhana, and they, for them, the bliss of Rati combines with direct experience of combination of Vibhava, Anubhava, and become highly relishable. Thus, they attain the final condensed bliss. Then we learned about how Brajendra Nandana Sri Krishna is the foundation of all rasas, and this is given in all the scriptures. And we know that although the forms of Bhagavan are by nature full of rasa, still no form other than Swayam Bhagavan Krishna, Brajendra Nandana Krishna, that is the not Mathura Krishna or Dwarka Krishna, but the Brajendra Nandana Krishna, that is the ultimate of all manifestation of all rasa, and that has to be understood by us very clearly. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, I have finished.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. So now we are set to begin studying the eighth shower of nectar, which is Prema Bhakti. Bhava Bhakti is just the beginning of that Prema Bhakti, actually, you know. So now Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in the last shower, eighth shower, Prema Bhakti, he gives a very deep and complex philosophy. Okay, so it has been my endeavor. When I prepare my PowerPoints, I work in trying to polish my PowerPoints to the very last hour before the class delivery, you know. So many revisions, modifications, I go through that. And then realize every time I send you different versions, you might not appreciate that. So particularly the last three lessons, 22, 23, 24 of this Prema Bhakti. So what I have decided, so what I'm going to present you today, so much has been modified, the version that I sent you a few days ago, you know. So what I'll do, and I'll keep on polishing as I go, lesson 23, 24. So toward the, on the day, so next weekend, then I will send you the final version, okay? So pardon me for that. So let me share with my PowerPoints. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure because yesterday I made an error. So as you can see in this yellow box, this is our class schedule. And the yellow box, that is lesson 22, 23, 24. Lesson 22 we'll do today, now. And lesson 23 and 24 we will do next weekend. But this whole PowerPoint is 22 to 24, All three lessons are there. And I have modified considerably, as I just said, lesson 22. And presumably 23 and 24 also will go through a lot of revisions. I try to present this complex philosophy um, as easily understandable way in that form. So it's always been my effort to constantly work towards that. So please pardon me for that. So this is our very familiar Bhaktilata Vriksha given by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, beginning with the planting of the seed of Navada Bhakti in the field of our heart. And the first two leaves comes sprouts, and what they represent that we already discussed in previous classes. Okay, so and we go through that, uh, coming from Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Nishta Bhakti, Ruchi, that is taste, Asakti, and then Bhava, and then now Prema Bhakti. Okay, so we are going to go like that. So this is just to sort of remind you. The first two leaves, remember there are 6 characteristics of pure bhakti. Okay, and the first two of them it is klesagni. Klesagni means the bhakti completely abolishes, destroys these material miseries. Okay, that represents this particular leaf, and the other leaf is the one Shubha Da. Da means that one gives what? Gives auspiciousness, all auspiciousness. So this is the what it is given here, and then we go through that sadhu sangha, bhajana kriya, anartha nivritti, nishta bhakti, then ruchi, and asakti. I'm giving you from segments of it. Not all segments are represented. I'm giving you because I'm going to discuss particular aspect of those. And finally, the Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti. So what Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur does in his final shower, he reviews this and gives a little bit additional information thus far he did not give. These leaves, we learn now that these leaves, each of these leaves represent anubhavas. And now, of course, you must know what are anubhavas. Anubhavas means the devotee feels the ecstatic bhavas, symptoms, like, tears rolling from his eyes. Suddenly he laughing, rolling on the ground like that. These are the anubhavas, okay? So here what I summarize from Srila Chakravarti Thakur's book, the first two leaves that is right here of sadhana bhakti, they become visible on the wish fulfilling vine of devotion, is Bhakti Lata Vriksha. Okay, and that's an analogy, obviously, already been described before. That Srila Chakravarti Thakur VCT says that. Now, so this is the new information. Many of these leaves, what do they represent? Anubhavas, which are far smoother and softer than the first two leaves. Okay, and yet, like them, composed of Shravana Kirtana, they are the limbs of sadhana bhakti. So all these things are like that. Anubhavas deriving from that. Certainly manifest on this vine that you see, that stem of that vine. Okay, bring it to the flower of bhava ultimately, so that the leaves are there, then the flower buds appear at the asakti stage, and these flower birds, they blossom fully into flowers at the bhakti stage, and they are brilliant colors, and really incredible, presumably this aroma is also there. So at every moment, these leaves, anubhavas expand. So anubhavas right around here, and anubhavas right around here. These leaves, they are far more deepened in this ecstatic symptoms. Okay, these leaves anubhava expand. The great beauty of this wine, bhakti, is sharpening, and blossoming more and more and more as we go from here to there, bottom to up. Okay, bottom up, uh, causing the flower of the bhava, when these flowers blossom to their ultimate potential and bear. Now it's ready to flowers turn into this fruit. Fruit, what for fruit is the prema. Okay. Now, the last point here is the most important point. The nature of this wish fulfilling wine of bhakti, of course, this is an analogy, okay, is so astonishing that when its leaves, sadhana bhakti, its cluster of the birds at the asakti stage, and at the bhava stage, these birds blossom into flowers with brilliant colors. Okay, and fruit, that is prema, attains maturity. They do not lose their original form, but continue to shine together in newer and newer ways. So that the ecstatic symptoms that the devotee, as he progresses from Shraddha to Prema, it's becoming, each stage, it's becoming much more intensified. Okay? His anubhavas are getting real pronounced. That's what we must understand. Okay? Next slide. Again, this Bhaktivrata Raksha. Now I'm focusing on the topmost portion, Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti. Okay? And of course, Bhava Bhakti, we discussed that the first two, we already saw the first two leaves, right? And the two of these six characteristics of Prema, Sadhana Bhakti, Bhava Bhakti, and Prema Bhakti. Of the Sadhana Bhakti, Kleshagni and Shubhada. But the third, fourth, and fifth of those characteristics that we saw beginning from Bhava Bhakti, what are they? Sudurlabha. So the Bhava Bhakti is extremely rare, that we discussed last week, yesterday, and the previous week. The fourth, Moksha Laguta Krita. That means the liberation, the goal of liberation is so insignificant compared to this prema bhakti that the devotee experiences in that. Okay, and then the characteristics of bhava bhakti, and remember, bhava bhakti is the first ray of the sun. So whatever is true for bhava bhakti is also true in the prema bhakti, but at a much more intense level. That is what we need to understand. So this, what is Chandrananda Visheshatma? Prema Bhakti is imbued with condensed superlative pleasure, incredible ecstatic bliss that is beginning to experience the devotee. Now finally, when the fruit comes, these flowers gives rise to fruit. And of course, these flowers, the petals, when blossom into fruit approaching, we see these five rasas that we already discussed. Okay, so at the prema stage, the fruit level, when it's fructify, then the final sixth of the six characteristics, the Krishna Akarshini, that manifest. What is Krishna Akarshani? Akarshani means that which attracts. So now, even Lord Shri Krishna is really attracted by the devotees rendering prema bhakti. Okay, so that is the great potency of prema bhakti, the ultimate fruit, that even Krishna gets really attracted. And we, as we will see, now he actually gives darshana, and he bestows his tremendous mercy on the devotee. He reveals himself in all different aspects that we will go through that. Okay. And that is what we are going to see at the bhakti level, prema bhakti level. Okay. But then there is something more. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, and he quotes a verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Srila Rupa Goswami. So that that I just discussed. So here that verse begins with Samyan Marshnita Swanto. Samyan Marshnita Swanto. So the softening of the heart. Okay. And then with that, what happens? Mamatva Atishaya Ankita. Mamatva. Krishna is all mine. And that is inscribed on his heart. Atishaya, intensely, powerfully imprinted on this heart. That Krishna is all mine and I belong to Krishna. That mamatva feeling, all mine. That I and mine, previously it was on a material platform, now it's completely on a spiritual platform. It's true manifestation. Bhava sa eva sandratma. So that bhava, ecstatic symptoms that develop with intense, what is this sandratma that we saw right here? Condensed feeling of bliss. Because now he's going to be ready. Krishna is going to appear to him and Krishna is going to reveal to him. So in anticipation of that, the condensed, tremendous bliss shows up on his heart. That is what the learned people, Buddhai, prema nigadyate. That's how the learned who describe prema bhakti, bhava bhakti like that. Okay. So what really this verse is telling us the difference between bhava bhakti and prema bhakti. So it's very important for you to pay attention to it. Okay. Difference between bhava and prema. Bhava is just the beginning of prema. Now when we are talking about the ultimate stage, okay, there is a very little, the bhava is less, prema is intensified. And what are the 4 points that is described here? Bhava softens the heart that we saw yesterday, and prema softens it absolutely. Softens the heart near 100%. As we saw previously, 100% purna versus absolute. Absolute means no recurrence of all these things. So here prema absolutely softens the heart to its ultimate point. Bhava contains the pinnacle of ruchi. Pinnacle means it gives the summit, topmost of the ruchi, taste. Okay. But prema contains an extreme feeling of possessiveness, that mamatva, that is intensified to its ultimate limit. And condensation of ecstasy, sandratmakatva. Sandratma means this condensed bliss is the intrinsic quality, the swarupa lakshana, the primary characteristics of this prema bhakti. Remember. Now let me remind you, what is bhava's characteristics? Primary swarupa lakshana and tatastha lakshana. Swarupa lakshana is softening of their heart, right? And the Tatastha Lakshana is developing that Mamatva Bhava, right? Here, the primary characteristics is this great ecstasy that he feels. Sandratmaka Visheshatma. And final point, the melting of the heart, softening of the heart, snigdhata, and a feeling of possessiveness, mamatvata, are prema bhakti's marginal characteristics. Okay, so now we are going to go, let me warn you right at front. And I told you we are going to get into deep philosophy. So I'm going to read carefully and you need to listen to me, all right, with great attention to get maximum out of it. So we'll do in 3 lessons. And I did a fair amount of study of Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's presentation, you know. So 8th and final shower of nectar, absolute fulfillment of the soul's yearning, prema bhakti, intense desire to attain prema bhakti, and extremely rare, remember. So what I've done, I divided into 3 lessons. Lesson 22, so there are 6 texts in prema bhakti stage, 1 through 6, and I divide into equally. So there are about 63 pages or something like that. I try to do it equal into 3 parts, each around approximately 21 pages. Okay. So first 2 texts in the lesson 22, lesson 3 and text 3 and 4 are in lesson 23, and lesson 24 is text 5 and 6. And I given a tentative title of that. And it's very difficult to give a title because so many interlapping is there between these 3 lessons. Okay. So Lord reveals himself to the devotee in prema, that we are going to see in these first 2 texts. And it's our lesson 22. And lesson 22 is today. 23, text 3 and 4, Bhagavan glorifies his own devotee. Devotee glorifies Bhagavan, of course. But here Bhagavan himself now glorifies his devotee. In fact, he subordinates himself. He feels I owe so much. He feels he is the debtor. Means he owes so much to his devotee. To that extent, Krishna goes to glorify his prema bhakta. Text 5 and 6 in lesson 24, the sequence in which the appearance of higher divisions of prema develop. And remember, I told you these titles are kind of not accurate in the sense they're loose because they overlap in these 3 lessons, and that gives something more also. So that's why it's very difficult. But these are the tentative titles for the practical purposes. So now we'll read the brief summary of each of these 3 lessons. Okay. Upfront, you get an overall view of the entire prema bhakti because it's so much complex and so vast. I had to condense 63 pages of information so that I can describe in these 3 lessons. So lesson 22, the first 2 texts, prema so here we are going to learn the intrinsic characteristics and the tatastha lakshana. Okay, that we already summarized in the previous slide with that verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So prema transforms the material. So all material tendencies that the devotee had is now completely gone. And now everything is transformed on the spiritual level. So all the material tendency of the devotee's heart now converted into spiritual ecstasy. The fruit of the prema, condensed pleasure, sandratma, visheshatma. and the ability to attract Krishna, Shri Krishna Akarshini, that manifest at that stage. Simultaneously, burning in separation. Now, the difficult to explain is this. The devotee undergoes back and forth, separation and union. Union means it comes later, but before the union comes, he gets the. Yes, somebody's saying something. Sharad Prabhu, can you please turn off that microphone? Somebody's talking and is disturbing. Somebody's microphone is on.
Sanjeev Prabhu,
I'm not going to proceed further unless the microphone is turned off.
Sanjeev Prabhuji, please switch off mic of Satyadevta Prabhuji. He has got the control. Satyadevta Prabhuji, please switch off your mic.
Hopefully the microphone is turned off now, because I'm talking about a very serious aspect of it. And all my concentration gets disturbed by if you leave the microphone on. See, again, this microphone is on now still. Satyadevta, please, Prabhuji, please, we humbly request you to turn off your microphone if you are listening to the class. If you are paying attention to the class, you're obviously not paying attention to the class. Hare Krishna. So let me repeat again. And every minute counts. And I'm just started. And look at time is ticking fast. The prema transforms the material tendency of the devotee's heart into spiritual ecstasy. The fruit of prema, the condensed pleasure, a sandratma, visheshatma, and the ability to attract Krishna, Shri Krishna Akarshini, simultaneously burning in separation from Bhagavan and being cooled by a vision of him. So this is the difficult aspect to understand, because they are constantly overlapping. He's feeling separation from Krishna, but momentarily he gets this spurti, that word we come across so many times, right? Spurti means momentarily visual realization of Krishna. He sees the picture of Krishna in front of his eyes, even though Krishna physically is not there. Okay, so that time he feels union with Krishna, and then suddenly that disappears and he feels separation. So it back and forth, the devotee experiences that. Bhagavan being cooled by a vision of him, distraught when he does not see Bhagavan, he feels very morose. Even after attaining a spurti of Bhagavan, attracted by his devotee's prema, Bhagavan gives finally Krishna realizes that, and he gives his darshana and manifests his sweetness, Madhurya, and the inexpressible. So that means Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, I cannot express it in word. It needs to be experienced, okay? So bliss arising from the darshan of Bhagavan. As soon as the prema bhakta sees Krishna face to face, his joy has no limit. Bhagavan reveals, so what way Bhagavan reveals himself? Now look, listen very carefully. He reveals his beauty, saundarya, and fragrance. Bhagavan's body has a particular fragrance, and same does Srimati Radharani also. Okay. Saurabhya. And Bhagavan reveals his mellifluous extreme sweetness, voice, sweet voice, Sausvarya, and the tenderness of his touch, Saukumarya. Bhagwan reveals the sweetness of his taste, Saurasya, Saurasya Rasa, and his magnanimity, Audarya, great mercy, blessings. And Bhagwan reveals his inconceivable potency, Achintya Shakti. So you see, in so many different ways, Krishna reveals himself to the devotee. Moving on to text 3 and 4, here Bhagwan glorifies himself, he glorifies that Prema devotee, and he feels indebted to such a devotee. Since the devotee is unable to experience the complete sweetness of Bhagavan, Bhagavan expands his compassion, Karunya, which is his foremost potency. कहते हैं भगवान दया के सागर है, दया निधि is the ocean of mercy. The mercy potency manifests herself to the devotee through Bhagavan's eyes. In his eyes, through his eyes, he transmits his mercy. Okay. Affection for his devotees is the highest of all Bhagavan's qualities. And in Sri Bhagavan, even apparent faults are wondrous qualities that we will see later as we progress in the lesson 3, probably in lesson 23. By the mercy of Bhagavan, the devotee relishes his Madhurya. Bhagavan glorifies his devotee. The devotee expresses humility because now he begins to see his Lord is glorifying him. So obviously he feels kind of embarrassed by that, So devotee expresses humility when glorified by Bhagavan. The beautiful form of Sri Bhagavan defies all worldly comparison. The devotee's darshana of Bhagavan's dham, Bhagavan also reveals his abode, Golok Vrindavan Dham, and companions, now all his sakhas, his eternal companions, confidential associates, there also Bhagavan introduces to him. The devotee is plagued by various doubts and the devotee's entrance into the eternal pastimes. He couldn't believe it. All this happening to him. So he should not consider the doubts in a critical way like that. He just couldn't believe his own fortune. And text 24, we are going to see sequence in the appearance of these higher divisions of prema. The sadhaka's body cannot contain prema, he just cannot absorb it. So much prema is overflowing from his heart, When he sees Bhagavan face to face and Bhagavan showing so much of his mercy and compassion and Bhagavan glorifying him in all these things. Scriptural evidence for ruchi, asakti and so forth. The living entity's bondage and the means by which he can become free from it. Prema is far beyond liberation. Moksha laguta krita. This now, what is the sequence of progression, divisions of prema? This I and mind, that concept are there. Previously it was on a material platform, right? That this is my car, my house, my wife, my family, my country, and so on like that. All these things is replaced by I am merely the servant of Krishna. I'm pure spirit soul. I'm part and parcel of Krishna. And Krishna is all mine. And I am his. That is taking place. Gradually disengage from the worldliness and engage in the transcendental platform. And one is able to mediate upon Bhagavan. So this is the overall preview of the entire 3 lessons that we'll see, okay? So now we'll focus on today's lesson. So this is what I've given. I'll walk you through for today's lesson. Here what we are going to see, the Lord reveals himself to the devotee and prema. So there are texts 1 and 2, of course. And 1, these are the themes are there. And because of the lack of time, and I'm going to discuss one by one. So I'm not going to read it right here, okay? But this is given an overview of it. And text 2, about how the devotees begin to see him. So we'll go one by one. So here, the first theme of text 1, A, B, C, D, like that. The transformation of the flower of bhava into the fruit of prema. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the author, now describes the symptoms of prema and its anubhavas. When bhava, the other name is rati, has thoroughly melted the heart, the softening has completely taken place. Now the heart is like butter, melting butter, with the desire to attain Bhagavan, intense thirst to see Bhagavan. Bhagavan Prapti Abhilasha, his desire how to attain Bhagavan, and that to Bhagavan attain the way it is favorable to him. Anukula yena, right? Desire to do it what is favorable for Bhagavan. Anukulya Abhilasha. And the third, he desire to have deep affection for Bhagavan. Sohardaya Abhilasha, as mentioned in the 7th shower. It increases to the ultimate limit of ecstasy and blesses the devotee with a strong sense of possessiveness. Mamatva, Krishna's whole mind, it becomes condensed further and further and further for his worshipable Lord. Learned person refer to this stage of bhava is prema. So prema is completely defined here in this first text. And some more explanations. Mahajanas, so there are 12 Mahajanas, right? The great souls, such as Bhishma, Prahlada, Uddhava, Narada, Brahma is also there, one of them. Shiva is also there. Regard prema to be that by which one gives up a mood of possessiveness for one's body. So she's that this is my body, my wife, my family, all this is completely taken over now by on the spiritual platform, that he is all, Krishna is all mine and I belong to him. That is what the Mahajana says. One who is completely free from all types of misery and is always immersed in the activities related to Shri Krishna, continuously tasting the happiness of prema. So he is tasting the nectar of prema constantly at this stage, prema stage. The nature of the crest jewels of devotees who are capable of extracting the essence of everything, the condensation and the nectar is condensing, solidifying now, is that they have dedicated their words, their sense of hearing, and their hearts of Shri Krishna, and their hearts to Shri Krishna. They experience topics about him to be ever fresh, just as the lusty man always relishes talks about women. The fifth and ultimate goal of human life, now it's replaced with the 4 goals which are on the material platform, right? Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. But this is the ultimate 5th level, 5th goal of the human form of life, is the most precious wealth by which one delights in Krishna's charming sweetness. Beauty and sweetness, these are the 2 highlights of Vraj Krishna. Prema, Vrindavan Krishna. Prema makes Shri Krishna becomes controlled by his devotee. And by prema, one obtains the ambrosial happiness of service to him. He is eagerly looking for how may I be able to serve Krishna that is favorable, that is to his pleasure. That's his goal. Then 1b, prema releases the sadhaka, the practitioner, from the tendency of the devotee's heart, chittavritti, that was fixed in material pursuits. So material pursuits are completely gone by that stage. Okay, he's now fully immersing in the sweetness of Sri Bhagavan's name, form, qualities, pastimes, and so on, like that. He just cannot satisfy himself want to listen continuously. Upon attaining the platform of Rati, the materialistic nature of the heart is destroyed and becomes transcendental completely. Complete transformation has taken place. Then here, how Krishna Akarshani, Krishna himself is attracted to this devotee. With numerous scriptural references, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti substantiates that Sandratma Visheshatma, condensed ecstasy, is the relishable rasa of this fruit of prema, and Krishna Akarshani is the supremely nourishing potency of that fruit. If you don't remember anything else, this is the one that you must remember, that Krishna himself is attracted to that devotee. The bliss of merging into the featureless aspect of the absolute truth, the nirguna nirakara impersonal aspect, is completely gone. Obtained after resolute meditation of samadhi for over 50 years of Brahma's lifespan, does not compare even to a drop of the ocean, the bliss of devotional service to the personal aspect of prema, personal aspect of Krishna prema bhakti. So Srila Jiva Goswami says, O Guru of the universe, directly beholden your divine form, I now dwell within an ocean of pure ecstasy. All other pleasures, including the bliss of merging with Brahman, appearing as insignificant as the water in a calf's hoof print. This is from the Hari Bhakti Shuddhodaya. I think it's written by Srila Sanatana Goswami. Am I correct, Sharat Prabhuji? Bhakti Shuddhodaya. It is by Sanatana Prabhu, right? Sanatana.
Hari Bhakti Vilasa is by Sanatana Goswami, not this one.
Oh, who is written in Hari Bhakti Shuddhodaya? Is it Jiva Goswami?
I'll just find out.
Okay, I don't remember. You find out. Krishna Akarshani. Because bhakti attracts and controls the object of prema, Sri Krishna, along with his beloved associates, is said to be Sri Krishna Akarshani. So that's prema bhakti, is that the ultimate manifestation of that. Krishna himself comes to see his devotee. The spiritual master of the demigod, Sri Narad Muni, said, O Yudhishthira, so Narad Muni is telling to Yudhishthira, of all the people on this earth, your good fortune is exceedingly glorious, because the absolute truth, Parabrahma, the all-pervading supersoul, has taken a human form and secretly lives in your palace. Great saintly person who purified the entire creation again and again visit you to take his darshan. So at that point, the Pandavas thought that Krishna is their friend. Narad Muni tells them, what you think he is your friend, but he is the supreme personality of Godhead. The two innate qualities of pure. So the Pandavas are pure devotees, prema bhaktas. So that divinity does not enter in their heart actually. The two innate qualities of pure transcendental bhakti are ahetuki, devoid of the desire for the fruit of one's actions, and apratihata, that the famous verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, unimpeded by any type of obstacle, although obstacles may still arise as the practitioner performs bhajana, he is not overwhelmed by them. So this is the lesson for us. We will always experience difficulties in our bhakti path, but we should never get discouraged and keep firmly holding the lotus feet of Krishna in our bhakti process. This is part D. Prema is another distinguishing feature. The prema bhakta savors the sweetness of Shri Krishna in Sfurti. Sfurti, again, the momentary visual realization of Krishna. Even though Krishna physically is not in front of him, he sees Krishna in front of him. In a dream of directly, the more is already intense, immeasurable eagerness in greed increase, laulyam. This intense thirst is an indicator of taste, ruchi. The unparalleled charm of Shri Krishna's name, form, and qualities through a sfurti soothes him with the coolness of millions of moons. But remember, I told you previously that Sfurti comes and goes, comes and goes. So he feels union and separation repeatedly, one by one. Okay, let's take a short break. So, I'm already running behind. Final 1 minute. Right. So when he restored even after attaining Sfurti of Bhagavan, and Sfurti again I'm repeating, Sfurti is Krishna is not there physically in front of him, but he sees Krishna kind of a momentarily visual realization of Krishna right in front of him. He appears and disappears. So at the stage of prema, upon receiving a Sfurti of Shri Krishna and thus relishing his beautiful form, qualities, and so on, the devotee simultaneously experiences an intense eagerness and a charming tranquility. Tranquility means peace, bliss. This experience produces an indescribably blissful anguish in the heart of the prema bhakta, because that sfurti comes and goes. Externally, he seems to be burning from poison, but internally, he's experiencing sheer bliss. Such is the astonishing nature of Krishna prema. Delighting in this prema can be compared to sucking scorching sugar cane. The mouth burns, but a person is unable to stop sucking in it because the sweetness is there. Okay. Only those with prema in their heart can really understand prema's power, in which poison and nectar seems to combine, separation into union, comes and goes like that. So his Purnamashi is saying to Nandimukhi, my dear beautiful friend, if a person develops prema in his heart for the son of Shri Nanda Maharaj, that's Krishna, then that person is able to directly understand prema's power. And now that is incredible. The devotee at the prema stage, he realizes the great potency of this prema bhakti that he has now attained. Okay? The suffering resulting from that prema defeats the severe effects of fresh Kalakuta poison. So, Kalakuta poison is the most potent poison Lord Shiva drank, when that came out from Samudra Manthan, churning of the milk ocean, So this is worse than that. But so that separation from Krishna is talking about. When the ecstasy of prema begins to flow, Krishna himself is coming in front of him now. It belittles, insignifies the pride that comes from delighting in the sweetness of nectar. From Vidagdha Madhav. Okay, this is 1F. Attracted by his devotees' prema, Bhagavan gives his direct darshana and manifests his madhurya or sweetness. Only possible when one's eagerness combines with prema in one's heart. Prema, the essential function of the Ladini Shakti, attracts Shri Krishna and makes him perceptible to the eyes of the devotee. So that means his prema bhakti forces Krishna to give darshana to his devotee. He must come in front of him now. Astonishingly, Shri Krishna enjoys the bliss for his devotee. So Krishna himself is experiencing that bliss that the devotee feels about seeing him. So see, normally what we see that the devotee's pleasure is Krishna's pleasure, right? But here the opposite takes place. Krishna sees the pleasure in his devotee, and with that pleasure, he becomes very joyful. Incredible, really. Shri Bhagavan then makes the supremely auspicious qualities of his Swarupa, his beauty, Saundarya, his fragrance, Saurabhya, his sweet voice, Sausvarya, his tender touch, Kumarya, the savor of his lips. Gopis used to talk more about that. They feel even jealousy when Krishna plays his flute. The flute is touching his lotus, his very, very sweet lips. So they feel jealousy of that Krishna's flute also, But now Krishna is appearing that, showing the sweetness of his lips to his devotee. His magnanimity, Audarya, and his compassion, Karunya, perceivable to the fire. So in every respect, Krishna reveals to that devotee now. Lord Narayana said to Durvasa Muni, "O Brahmana, even more desirable to me than my own intrinsic bliss is the inherent bliss of my devotees, the bliss of prema within his heart. Although both my intrinsic bliss, Swarupa Ananda, and the bliss of prema, prema Ananda, in the heart of my devotees." So basically, that's what I'm saying. Krishna himself is tasting the condensed bliss in his devotees, and condensed bliss of his devotee is seeing Krishna by the devotee. So that is reflecting back to Krishna himself. Amazing, really amazing. This is the final version of text 1. The Premi Bhakta continuously rises and sinks in the ocean of Bhagavan's delectable sweetness. And listen, all this description of Prema Bhakti, I don't think I'm ever going to see, at least in this lifetime. But something that you are not seen, but when you hear the description of it, that induces eagerness and laulium to work for that. There's some lifetime I might get it. So that is just listening to the description itself for us is as equivalent to seeing Krishna, because we are not going to be able to see Krishna at this level of our progression on Shraddha to Prema, right? But at least we are able to hear that description of that. So the inexpressible words, the author, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, gives some analogies for us to understand something that we have never seen, just like that frog in the well, right? The frog thinks that this well is the ocean, but the real ocean is so vast. He has never seen, he'll never going to see that. But from the ocean that he is in, the well looks like a big ocean to him, vastness. From that using that as a meter, he can guess what it is, the real ocean. So here also, we are not going to be able to experience Prema Bhakti at our stage, but to hearing about it and extracting the bliss from hearing this thing, our thirst is getting. And we develop the desire and work for it to ultimately get that Prema Bhakti. So it is like the analogies are given. A one who is in a scorching sun right now in Washington, D.C., is extremely hot, unusually hot. Throughout the world, the summers are getting very, very hot, including over here in Washington, D.C., when in the winter we get snow. Right now, it's extremely hot. It's so hot. 24 hours air conditioning is going on. But when you experience that, and suddenly you feel the coolness of the air conditioning, you can imagine. So that is what, like that kind of pleasure, you get that. And the elephant's delight when having been caught and scorched by a forest fire, and now suddenly bathes in the incessant torrents of torrential rain. He feels so joy. So something like that, Okay, so this is the final, this one, text 2 now. And we will do it in about 3-4 minutes, okay? So whatever I'm showing here is the composite of everything. So left and right, I'm going to blow up, So here, so A and B, Bhagavan reveals his saundarya, a beauty, and saurabhya, his fragrance. Now, fragrance, when do you see that? When do you experience? When the person is right in front of you, in the close proximity, then only you are going to see, right? So by this, the author is telling us that Krishna is personally giving physical darshana to his devotee now. That's when devotee is experiencing his fragrance, his bodily fragrance right there. So Bhagavan causes the devotee's eyes, nose, ears, and touch and tongue. So with every sense, all of the 5 senses are experiencing Krishna's giving darshana. To relish his 5 qualities of beauty. So there are 5 qualities of beauty. There is again first thing, I never knew about that. Saundarya, fragrance, sweet voice, tender touch, and the taste of his lips. All five kinds, Moreover, he causes the heart of his premi bhakta to also relish such qualities as magnanimity, audarya, and compassion, karunya. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains the causes of these qualities manifesting in the senses of the premi bhaktas. So the devotee is seeing not to the outer senses, outer organs, eyes, ears, nose, the internal senses is experiencing all these things now. The beauty of the Bhagavan is so sweet and so astonishing that it is beyond the devotee's capacity to relish it with only two eyes. He wishes I had million eyes, Therefore, all his senses now act like eyes. He sees Krishna through his ears, nose like that, so that he can take in that unsurpassable beauty. Upon doing so, he faints in ecstasy. Bhagavan reveals his sausvarya or mellifluous voice and saukumarya. So we are we are not fortunate enough to going to see Krishna in this lifetime, at least not me. But just hearing the description of it, that gives some satisfaction to us. What is it like? And that creates that intense and eagerness, laulyam, and work for it. That so eventually we might experience that. The taste, the sweetness of his beautiful form, all of the devotee's senses become like eyes. To hear the sweetness of his melodious voice, all of his ways, the senses lose their original functions. Merciful Sri Bhagavan makes the devotee's life successful by bestowing his complete charming sweetness upon him. Allowing the devotee to relish the type of sweetness conducive to his particular mood. Bhagavan satisfies the devotee's intense longing. He satisfies the devotee's laulyam. Okay, C and D. Bhagavan reveals sausvarya, the sweetness of his taste, and audarya, his magnanimity. How? Bhagavan magnifies his fifth madhurya, his sausvarya, saurasya rasa, or the nectar of his lips to the devotee's sense of taste. To devotees in the mood of the devotees in the mellow of his amorous love, or the mood of a female sweetheart, he bestows relish of his madhurya in accordance with the devotee's inner hankering. The sheer ecstasy of this madhurya causes the devotee to fall into deep swoon, daylight dreaming. Seeing no other ways to revive him, Bhagavan manifests his sixth madhurya. Look at how many different kinds of sweetness he has. His magnanimity, and thus allows the devotee's five sense organs, eyes, nose, ears, skins, and tongue, to simultaneously perceive his beauty. So through all five senses, he drinks Krishna's beauty and sweetness. Random touch, the potency allows the devotee to relish all five kinds of madhurya at once simultaneously. Hare Krishna. Very difficult aspect of it today. Okay, so open for discussion.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanvat Pranam. So intense. You are so passionate by saying you are present. I'm able to understand not all. Prabhuji, difficult to grasp as you speak. But at least your enthusiasm, and I'm so glad that I am with you at this time and trying to understand. This gives basically impetus to us. How great is the Lord, how magnanimous is the Lord, all
Yes.
that we hear in a Bhagavatam, and the different places. Your example of fragrance, that means how close proximity is the Lord with the devotee.
Yeah.
That visible understanding, one has to, we can just dream and understand, examples are given there, with that kind of, there. Only I have a small question that at the
Yeah.
end it mentions all that sense objects, sense organs like eyes, nose, and all that. And he drinks like we hear that Gopi is drinking the nectar from from eyes and ears and everything. We can visualize. So there, my question is that individual like eyes sees him or ear through ear they hear or all the senses like some one place is a mention like ear no like eyes. Does it mean that we also interchange our senses like ears and other things and see the Lord with the eyes? Because we hear the Lord can accept the bhoga and make prasadam by seeing it, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is that the meaning here? Maybe I may be reading wrongly, Prabhuji.
No, there are 2-3 aspects of it actually. First of all, when I read this description, I felt like I'm a frog and I'm in the well. The well is like an ocean to me, and I have no idea the real ocean. So I'm hearing the description. This frog, me, is hearing the description of the real ocean. So that's one aspect of it. Second aspect, when I was hearing that, it reminded me of Dhruva Maharaj. Remember Dhruva Maharaj first time when he heard first time the Lord came to him, and he could not he had a limited capacity, right? So Lord, what he touched his conch shell on his head, and Lord gave him the ultimate senses to experience the sweetness of the Lord. So that is the second aspect. I imagine that when he comes, because our senses have limitations, finite limitations, right? But when Lord comes, he gives that ability to see himself by our senses. Our senses, its capacity to absorb is given by him. We have finite capacity, but he increases it out of that capacity so that he can transmit his beauty and sweetness to the when he wishes to give it to that devotee, and because devotee must qualify for that. So that is the second or third aspect. I'm imagining the Lord will increase the capacity of all our organs and internal organs through which we see all these things, and experience. So the devotee is drinking the beauty of Krishna through his tasting, through his tongues, his beauty, to hearing also is experiencing his beauty of his voice. Because here we saw that 5-6 kinds of Madhurya, right? The sweetness is also different kind that is very, very extensively described by the author here. All different kinds of Madhurya. And that could be experienced by all our senses. And that is also, I think, is internal real organs that absorbs that. And that capacity of that is also must be increased by the Lord so the devotee can experience that. Because Lord himself he is very, very eager to give and share to that devotee. But then devotee will feel great pleasure. And the devotee's pleasure is all Krishna's pleasure at that point. Complete reversal in the real sense. So it's paraspara.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
So that pleasure is exchanged to and fro, both, right? From devotee to Krishna and Krishna to devotee. Again, this is a philosophical speculation, okay?
No, Prabhuji, I think because other places also here is a reciprocation, right? Lord, devotee and Lord. If it's a one way, it doesn't. So that the devotee feels for Krishna and he personally goes, initially maybe reluctant like the sadhakas and with as we say, fear and all that. But as we go and taste it, the Krishna, then the real the spirituality or real motivation is the love, and then there is a reciprocation. Maybe as you say, speculation, but at least I see that there's a reciprocation. That's why devotee also feels, relishes, right, Prabhuji?
So just hearing itself should really create that thirst and hunger in ourselves. The goal is still far away from us, right? We are not, but hearing that lowlium should come into it, and we should struggle and achieve that goal. Okay, any other points,
Yes,
questions?
thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna,
you.
Bhaiji. It's very, very, very interesting chapter. It encourages the person to increase bhakti too
Yes,
much.
exactly. That's
And
what I'm telling you.
Yeah. And we can give the example of Lord Krishna and Arjun at the time of Mahabharata. Lord Krishna gave vision, दिव्य दृष्टि
Yeah.
अर्जुन को
Yes.
दिया अपना वो दिखाने के लिए. तो भगवान अपना उसको अपनी वो उसको दिव्य ज्ञान दिव्य शक्ति देते हैं, जिससे कि डिवोटी जो बहुत हाई लेवल डिवोटी वो फील कर सकता है उनका ब्यूटी.
या उस टाइम भगवान ने उसको दिव्य दृष्टि दी, तभी देख पाते हैं ना. पर फिर भी उस टाइम जो भगवान है, जो महाभारत के ग्राउंड में दिया गया है, actually that Krishna is expansion, is that's a Vasudev Krishna. But here we are talking about this, the beauty and Saudharya, beauty, and that there's only there actually in fullest extent in Vrindavan Krishna. So we are talking about Vrindavan Krishna here. So just imagine even that Vasudeva Krishna, so vast, Krishna had to give a Divya Drashti, divine vision to Arjuna to realize that. So what to talk, what to talk about the sweetness and beauty of Vrindavan Krishna, because that is he is full in that we learned in yesterday's class. Remember that other his expansions are there, there, but to a limited extent. But only Vrindavan Krishna. So that sweetness is unparalleled.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you, Bhai. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam.
Yes, Raksha Mataji.
So wonderful class, Prabhuji. So thank you so much, Prabhuji. प्रभुजी मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है कि हम हमेशा सुनते हैं हमारा गोल क्या है, हमारा गोल क्या है. हम जब से भक्ति में आए हैं तब से कृष्णा प्रेमा. तो आज हमने जो सब सुना, इतना अच्छा जो डिस्क्रिप्शन, जो इतना अच्छा पावर पॉइंट जो भक्त श्री विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर जी ने हमें जो बताया है आपके द्वारा, तो ऐसा ही लगता है कि एक बड़ी सी आशा हमारे दिल में आती है कि सही है, अभी अगर हम अनर्थ निवृत्ति स्टेज पे है, मगर हम वहां पे खड़े रह के देख सकते हैं कि हमारा गोल कहाँ है और हमें वहां जाना है. तो हम जो हमारी ईगरनेस को बढ़ाते हैं अगर, और हमारा लोलियम बढ़ाते हैं, और हम अच्छे से अगर साधना करते रहते हैं, बस दूसरा कुछ सोचना नहीं है, तो एक बार हम उसका थोड़ा तो रियलाइज कर सकेंगे, वो थोड़ी ब्लिस का इस जन्म में.
सिर्फ सुनने से ये प्यास बढ़नी चाहिए, ये सुनने से. तो कहने का मतलब ये वही मैं जो कहने की प्रयास कर रहा था कि जैसे भी सुनने, जस्ट यू हियर दिस थिंग, it should create the thirst and hunger, and then because that is what is going to attract Krishna. Ultimately, remember we learned yesterday's lesson, right? No matter how much our efforts might be there, unless until Krishna himself decides to give this bhakti, prema bhakti, we cannot get it. And he will give only when he sees that lolium within us. And to create that lolium is to hear this kind of description. That's what I'm talking about. Simply hearing that,
प्रभु जी, एक
Automatically,
आशा
Krishna.
बहुत
So
बड़ी
Krishna
जन्म
will make
है।
Krishna will himself make us qualify for that prema bhakti. But we have to have that laulyam, and laulyam will come if you hear with intense eagerness and such focus. That's what I'm talking about. Hare
वेरी ट्रू
Krishna.
प्रभु जी, थैंक यू सो
Thank
मच।
you, Raksha Mata ji. Thank
आशा
you.
बहुत अच्छी आई है मन में कि बस
Yes,
एक
correct.
आशा है, जन्म
भाई आशा कवा ये
ले
सुनने
लिया है।
ये सुनने की वजह से, right? ना? Yes,
Yes,
when you
प्रभु
hear that thing.
यस प्रभु जी, थैंक यू सो
Hare
मच
Krishna.
प्रभु जी।
Thank you. Or um
Hare
um
Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mata ji. Thank
Please
you.
accept the humble obeisances, all glories to Srila
Ah.
Prabhupada. Thank you so very much. So I was just wondering, the slide that showed about the bhakti, the different, the Krishna, Karshani, Saubhagya, Saurabhya,
Yeah.
and Spurti, Sandrananda, Visheshatma. So my
Ah.
question is about the Sandrananda, Visheshatma, and Spurti. It only happens at the Bhava stage, or some devotees, like when they are doing the aspiring devotees, when they are chanting purely, when they are trying to chant, sometimes they are chanting purely, sometimes their chanting is being affected. Would they get that Spurti also during that time?
Yeah, based on what we are hearing now, all this thing that is comes at bhava stage and beyond, right? But to reach to bhava stage, we have to have the nishtha bhakti, and nishtha bhakti will give the taste, ruchi, and ruchi will give the asakti, the attachment. So we have to cross through that. Okay, then we would qualify. But to get that strength to cross through, that is also within not in our capacity. That also will come from Krishna, and that's why it's important simply hearing Shravan. Remember that the Bhaktirata Vraksha, at every stage you need that growth of that tree, growth of the vine, lata. You need to have that constant sadhu sangha, sadhus who already have had that fortune. So with that, so Krishna is transmitting his mercy through his devotees. This is confidential associates, our guru, spiritual master, because it is coming from Guru Parampara, transmitting through that. Hare Krishna.
So Spurti is like a glimpse.
So most important point in today's lesson, what I got is to develop that laulyam. And that laulyam will come, simply keep on hearing this Krishna Katha and regular attendance in such classes.
Yes. So Spurti is like a glimpse, right? Like if it is akin to
It's a momentary
glimpse of
momentary visual realization. That is Spurti. He may not be there personally at that point, but he transmit that in devotee's mind. So his mind will create that form, and ultimately Krishna will himself come.
So that is the internal vision, we can say.
Yes, correct. Yes, correct.
Thank
Because
you.
कृष्णा उसके रोम रोम में बसा हुआ है उस टाइम जब
जी.
भक्त उस स्टेज पे पहुंचते हैं इसके रोम रोम in every part of his body Krishna is there.
हाँ जी प्रभु जी.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
और कोई before I turn it over to Sharad Prabhu ji. Okay, Sharad Prabhu ji.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Hi, boy.
A question came up regarding Haribhakti Suddhadoy. Haribhakti Suddhadoy actually is a part of Naradiya Purana, Narada Purana.
Oh, I see. I thought it was.
Naradiya Purana, it has got about 25,000 verses. Out of that, about 1,600 verses, they comprise this Haribhakti Suddhodaya, and presently we don't have more than 1400 of them.
Acha.
So that means the author is Vyasadeva only.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Then very, very interesting things and the new things we have been talking, and more we will be talking in the next two classes. One thing came up, Sandrananda Vishesatma. What is this Sandrananda Vishesatma? Now, this love for God, it is getting condensed. Condensed means like what? If we can give an example only, then it will be, our understanding will be better. Like milk. Milk is very, very sweet, very good. But if we keep on boiling it, it becomes much more sweeter.
रबड़ी कहते हैं रबड़ी 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 को पता है रबड़ी रक्षामती तुमने खबर है रबड़ी रक्षामाता जी
हाँ प्रभुजी खबर
આપણે
છે.
ગુજરાતી માં રબડી કહે છે આવી રીતે તને you just keep on boiling that water the milk and ultimately it solidifies, you know,
Condense. બાસુંદી બી કહી
very very
શકાય.
condensed. આ બાસુંદી એ રબડી બધું લગભગ સેમ છે
હા,
અને
હા,
એની
પ્રભુજી.
એની સ્વીટનેસ કેટલી બધી હોય છે, so that sweetness is really condensed, so that is what is Sandrananda Visheshatma.
Like we get in India the condensed milk. This condensed milk is much sweeter than the normal milk. So actually these things we cannot even imagine what these things are. We are just reading from the books and hearing, but when one experiences, then it is much different thing altogether. And then we learned today that externally, when somebody comes to this stage, externally he seems to be burning from poison, but internally he is experiencing sheer bliss. Actually, it is a contradiction only. But how this is happening? What is the mechanism with which this is happening? When our devotional service is completely unmotivated and uninterrupted, then we will feel completely satisfied. Now, Srila Prabhupada also has explained this in various purports in various places in Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. He says that when one remains fixed in devotional service, that gives one the utmost, the total or very high level of self-satisfaction. And actually self-satisfaction can be achieved only by the pure devotees of the Lord, not by anybody and everybody, because they do not have any desire other than to serve the Supreme Lord Krishna. And since the Supreme Lord has nothing to desire, he is fully satisfied with himself. Similarly, a devotee who has no desire other than to serve the Supreme Lord is satisfied as the Supreme Lord. This is what is the principle in which it is working, and this is what Srila Prabhupada is saying, and that's why everyone is hankering after peace of mind and self-satisfaction, but this can only be achieved by becoming a pure devotee of the Lord and by no other process, and following the path of devotional service. Devotees, they become fully peaceful and fully satisfied because their association with the complete whole, which is Krishna only, and Krishna only grants them the genuine transcendental understanding of him, as he says in Bhagavad Gita, to those who are constantly devoted to me with love, I give them the understanding by which they can come to me. But if it gets better, then another thing regarding the renunciation also, how this renunciation, this also gives happiness to everybody. We know the greatest renuncier is Krishna only, because he had come here about 5,000 years back, and when he left not only the 16,108 queens, but 56 crore Yaduvansis also. Everybody, he had everything, but he had to leave everybody. Now, the devotees, they are the Lord's relatives and family members. Just as ordinary people, they feel joy and satisfaction when they look after the various needs and comforts of their family. The Lord also feels pleasure when he tends to the well-being of his devotees. Thus, the Supreme Lord is known as Bhakta Vatsala, the maintainer of the devotees. And when the devotee is devoid of material desires, the Supreme Lord feels great satisfaction in fulfilling all his desires. And the devotee's satisfaction goes beyond detachment and beyond matter also, and beyond freedom from stress, beyond the satisfaction and receiving knowledge and maintenance from the Lord. In fact, the Lord gives his devotees the ability to satisfy him through their love. And Lord Brahma in the Bhagavatam also tells Krishna how greatly fortunate are the cows and the gopis of Vrindavana, because the nectar of their breast milk, they satisfy the Supreme Lord himself. And that's why they are so happy. And secondly, the Lord is always pleased with the unalloyed devotees, that he wants to satisfy them. Therefore, he manifests his innumerable transcendental forms for the satisfaction of his devotees. But these things are all given in the Srimad Bhagavatam in various cantos. And the Lord always wants to reciprocate them with his devotees. And this realm of satisfaction, the real aim of the life is complete satisfaction, and that complete satisfaction can be achieved only by devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And who is that? As we know, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, none other than Krishna. And by engaging in his service with devotion, with love, we are freed from all anxieties and we become happy. And we see Lord's design behind everything, and we know he is our most dear friend. And this is how the gopis, even though they were separated at the end from Krishna for many, many years, they became, they remained satisfied and they carried on. They did not die. And finally, as we have already learned, Krishna came to fulfill their desires, and all their desires were fulfilled. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Now the time is up.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sharad Prabhuji. So since the time is up, I'm going to request Saga Prabhu to conclude the class with Nrsimha prayer. Hari Bol. Saga Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu ji, please ऐसे मैं हम लोग session all go to Srila Prabhupada. Namaste Narasimhai, Namaste Narasimhai, Prahlada Daine, Hiranyakashipu Bakshahar, Shilatankar Nathale, Ito Narsingha, Parato Narsingha, Ito Narsingha, Parato Narsingha, Ito Yami, Ito Narsingha, Ito Yami, Ito Narsingha, by Narsingha, Hriday Narsingha, by Narsingha, Hriday Narsingha, Narasimhamadin Saranam Prapade, नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपदे तव कलकमलभरे नखाद्भुतसिंहं दलिता हिरण्यकशिपूर्तनुभृङ्गम् केशवधीत नरहरिरूप जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे तव कलकमलभरे नखाद्भुतसिंहं दलिता हिरण्यकशिपूर्तनुभृङ्गम् केशवधीत नरहरिरूप जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे। नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय, भक्त प्रहलाद महाराज की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, चारु प्रभु की जय, गुरुदेव चारु प्रभु की जय, शरद प्रभु की जय, गुरुदेव की जय, ऑल assembled devotee की जय। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण चारु प्रभु, दंडवत प्रणाम।
Danvat Pranam, Saga Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. All glories to Prabhupada, all glories to Srimad Bhagavatam, all glories to the six Goswamis of Vrindavan, all glories to all the Vaishnavas. Hare Krishna. So next weekend, we will do the remaining two lessons, 23 and 24, and with that, we will conclude Madhurya Kadambini. And then next weekend, we will be launching our Sri Jaiva Dharma, the inauguration class. Okay. So please don't forget that. And I'm expecting all 21 of you will be there next weekend. Okay. Haribol. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much.
Prabhuji,
Thank you.
Hare Krishna to all devotees.
Please excuse me for the next weekend, Prabhuji. There is Toronto Rath Yatra here, so heavily involved.
I see. Okay. Okay, you can hear the recordings.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Haribol. And our Guru Maharaj is coming, I think, shortly, right? Oh, it is coming in August. Haribol, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Sarad Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.